Wow. I am absolutely thrilled to be on stage with such an incredible panel. Can everyone give these guys a round of applause, please? So I'm Andy Franks. I'm a director in the business development team at Circus Street. We're a digital training company. Going to just introduce you to everyone quickly. We've got Deepthi Prakash here from TBWA. Deepthi, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. I'm the Chief Product Officer at TBWA, and it's my job to understand what clients want and to figure out how we can build the right services and scopes to address those needs and to ensure that we're maintaining creative excellence in everything that we do.
Welcome, Deepthi. And we've got Krista Thomas with us, the SVP and Global Head of Marketing at inMobi.
Hi, everybody. It's so lovely to meet you, and thanks so much for the opportunity, Brand Innovators. It's a wonderful time for us at inMobi. We're actually growing around globally and adding a whole new business, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. It's called Glance.
Welcome, Krista. And we've got Derek Yarbrough, who's CMO of Madewell and J.Crew.
Hi, I'm Derek, Chief Marketing Officer for J.Crew Group. We have two major brands, J.Crew and Madewell, and my group oversees e-commerce performance, but also the brand creative and styling. So kind of a very left brain, right brain world.
Thanks, Derek. Okay, so building the marketing organization of the future. Pretty big topic. So we've got a fantastic panel to help us talk through that. We all laughed about this. We thought that you could talk for hours, if not days, on the working title that we were given. Don't think Brand Innovators want us to talk for days. We'll keep it to 25 minutes if we can, but we've got loads to talk about. So I think let's get started, right? Look, we all agree on stage, and I think you guys in the audience do as well, that we really live in quite exciting times. Technology is evolving more rapidly than ever before, whether it's AI, 5G, Web3, Metaverse, AR, the list goes on. Really exciting times. Whilst it's all very exciting, it's getting harder and harder to keep up with the pace of change and to continue to future-proof the marketing function. And actually, in fact, a client of ours at Circus Street the other day said to me that they sort of described it as almost being an impossible task, right? Something that, we're all living and breathing. So to kick things off, let's think about the importance of strategically developing and communicating a vision for success. Derek, let's start with you. How have you approached this at J.Crew and Madewell?
I think you have to start from two places. You have to start from the brand, obviously. And so in my world, I have to wear two hats representing two brands, two different teams. So really pushing the teams to really know what is the platform we're standing for, what is our purpose, really staying true to that, but at the same time also staying very close to the customer. And if you do that, you know where the customer is, you know what's emerging. In that way, I think you're always future-proofing, always future-proofing the brands.
And, considering all of that, as CMO, right, how are you communicating that to the teams? What's the approach internally to really help to make sure everyone's on the same page?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you have to communicate it all the time. So you're living and breathing the brand platform. I think it has to represent, everything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You're living and breathing, repeating, and constantly reinforcing whatever the vision is, and always kind of tying it back to a brand purpose, brand goals, and checking in regularly with the team and saying, hey, here's the vision we set out, and let's meet regularly. Is this still working? Do we need to make tweaks? Has anything changed? But it's reinforcing, the same way with a consumer.
Yeah, I love that. Really important. So, Krista, let's come to you. Obviously, there's been a lot of organisational changes that you and the teams at inMobi have been going through. So tell us about the process that you've gone through with you and your teams.
Absolutely. It's been a fascinating journey. We created Glance about 2.5, 3 years ago. And what that did as an ad tech company is just changed up our focus where we had to put the consumer in the middle of everything, right? And start over in how we think. And that might not sound like it should be revelatory, but it was for an advertising technology company, right? To really think about our consumer engagement when we started building our own apps and building our lock screen experience for the Android phones. We really had to just really change our mindset. We focused on creating a whole new corporate positioning around connecting people with their passions and unlocking their digital lives. And when we did that and felt the power of that, we said if we do that right, advertisers will love it and the publishers will love it on the other side of our business. And so that makes sense for everybody, and it just complete change in our corporate narrative and everything we're doing going forward. So this is a transformational year for us.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, you're not a consumer-facing business, but you're actually thinking about putting your customers at the heart of what you're doing. That's really interesting. Okay, Deepthi. So, thinking about consumer centricity, it's becoming more of a priority for a marketing function, right? From a creative perspective, right? How does this wash up, right? So, how's it affecting the work that you're doing, the relationship that you have with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think we value consumer insight and the importance of being connected to what customers care about, where they are, what their attitudes and motivations are is not to be diminished. However, if that is the only thing that is guiding a brand strategy, our feeling is that you end up in an undifferentiated place. Because everybody else in your category and your competitor set can have those same insights and activate them. It is the brand perspective that actually differentiates what you have to bring to the table and makes it authentic and helps you break through. So for us, it's always the balance between what does the brand stand for, what's authentic to the brand, and what does the customer need, and how does that connect to what the customer's motivations are.
Yeah, so you're trying not to be counterproductive. Absolutely. And after all, we're at an advertising festival, right? It's all about branding and innovation. Is there a brand that you think's doing this really well that you're working with at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think Hilton is an excellent example of, a brand that really knows what it's about and ensures that wherever they show up, they're being consistent with that. So they are our clients. Last year, we developed the platform for this day for Hilton. And they've actually, deployed that not only in their communications through advertising, but also in the way that they treat their employees. They're talking about what does it mean if you're staying at Hilton from a jobs perspective, and how can you build a career there, and what's the path? They've actually brought it to life in different channels consistently. So when we, had a brand presence on TikTok, we didn't look to just do the same thing that everybody else does. Because Hilton was for this day, we launched the longest TikTok. It was 10 minutes long. People actually watched it. Millions and millions of people. So I think there is an opportunity here, if you bring that brand lens in, to be able to activate in really unique and interesting ways, and to be able to break through to consumers while staying consistent with who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah, really interesting. And funny enough, so Paris Hilton was on stage yesterday, and now we've got Hilton on stage today. So you're keeping it going. That's great. Derek, interested to hear your thoughts on getting the balance right. Obviously, in your role, you're working with your ad agencies, you're working with your media agencies, you're thinking about putting the consumer at the heart of things. Tell us a bit about the balance that you're trying to strike there.
Yeah, balance is everything. I mean, and I totally agree with Deepthi. It's, balancing both the brand perspective and where the customer is, and always knowing who that is. It's an interesting question. J.Crew is celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. So this year was a major moment for us to reflect. What does this brand mean to people? What is the history? We've gone through a lot of different eras, as we would say. And so in this moment in time, we said, what would be the most audacious thing we can do as a 40-year-old brand? And it was, at the end of it, all these conversations came back to the most audacious thing we can do is be ourselves. And so this year was really taking a moment to celebrate the nostalgia of J.Crew, this incredible legacy. And people really love this brand. They root for it and they want it to be successful. But we're also saying it's also a moment to look forward in the future and how can this brand be relevant for another 40 years? Not just for the fashion, but the inspiration and all the things that come with this brand. So that's, for me, the everyday of living and breathing J.Crew.
Well, okay, so I think we all agree, it's really important to get the balance right. So, look, thinking about, as brands continue to think about future-proofing and set themselves up to operate in today's, modern landscape, and that's changing every day. We're seeing changes to traditional ways of working. So, for example, Connie Brahms last year at Unilever, she took the marketing out of her job title, and she essentially merged sales and marketing into a commercial function, right? Sort of ripping things up and starting again. And I think e-com is probably, the driving force behind, looking at traditional silos and ways of working and changing things. Derek, staying with you, have advancements in e-com, impacted how your teams are now operating?
Very much. And I have a very specific point of view as a marketer who grew up in the e-commerce space. And you're starting to see a lot more of these kind of e-commerce leaders move into roles like marketing, even CEOs now, especially as you're a number of brands. The majority of their business is done online, especially after the COVID acceleration. So I have a very strong, position on there should no longer be an e-commerce role. To me, e-commerce and digital capabilities should be infused in all functions of the company in order to be digitally mature. And if that's the case, I think we're reverting back to a more traditional structure of traditional marketing, product, et cetera. And every function needs to be digitally focused. And so I think part of the role of the marketing team should be the forefront of that. So in some ways, yes, my role, I'm technically running the e-commerce channel, running digital marketing, leading social first creative. But a huge part of my job is also raising the rest of the organization and getting them to buy into a digital first mentality, including merchants, the styling team, even the executive leadership and the board. Everyone you have to be the cheerleader for the future.
Yeah, okay. I really agree with a lot of what you're saying there. Love what you're saying about, how e-com actually, it should just be part of marketing. It should be part of a commercial function now, right? So you're really interesting. Krista, have you made any, significant changes? I'm laughing because I know you have. But, to your internal structures have those changes encouraged collaboration?
Yeah, actually, we've completely changed marketing structure in the last 4 or 5 years, and not necessarily tied to COVID, but it started with the SDR function in demand generation. Sales development reps were in my group. I was given the head count by this lovely gentleman over here in the navy blue shirt to build out that process. And so we started there and tried to work that through the marketing function, and it informed everything, right? All of a sudden, we needed to create better content for them. We needed to create more engaging experiences and experiential marketing. It just drove all of our thinking. And then from that, we have actually now been given the inside sales team. which is an amazing development across the company. And what it does, and I think the kind of the brilliance of our CEO is it shortens the time from concept to results, right? We see in our own team when something is working and when it's not. So that has just sped up the entire process, and what you're seeing now is a sales and marketing team in that sense, together, closer than ever.
That's brilliant. I love it. You know, you're speeding up the sales cycle, and you're adapting. Fantastic. It sounds like it's working.
Yes.
Okay, continuing to think about future-proofing, something that's close to my heart, something I'm passionate about. Like to consider the importance of investing in people. Obviously, we're nothing without the people in our teams. Developing capability, developing skills, developing talent, and doing it in a way that, you know, the developments align to ongoing, overarching business strategy, business objectives. Just want to refer to something that Raja Rajanamar, CMO of MasterCard, has published in his book, Quantum Marketing. He says that marketers need to learn about modern technologies, otherwise they risk becoming redundant and obsolete. And he says marketers who fail to strive to continue learning, they'll become dinosaurs. It's a really good read, by the way. Really, really forward-thinking. Recommend it to everyone. So Deepthi, I think we all agree it's a big topic. Clearly, TBWA are doing something right. You're continuing to win accolades. I might embarrass Deepthi now, but we were just talking before, and TBWA already been quite successful over the last day and a half, right?
Not as much as we'd like.
Okay, Deepthi said that, yeah, we've won a couple. Five already, yeah? Okay, so what are your thoughts on how to approach employee development, and what have you been doing that's been working?
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't feel like you can train people anymore. Things are moving too fast. And, you know, this isn't the age where when you had print and TV and out of home and, you know, radio, you had the time to actually train people and develop them to be better writers for those formats. Today, every social channel has, you know, over 50 new features and changes in algorithm and everything else that they produce every single year. So you can't train for that, or you'll just be in training all the time. Our approach is actually to hire people who are more early adopters and who are naturally curious and interested in the new. And we talk about this mindset of being always in beta. We would rather hire people who are naturally interested and exploring new technologies on their own time, because these people are truly passionate about learning new things, and they'll do it on their own. So I think that's one piece. I think the other piece is that we just have to change the way we operate. You know, the notion of always having a large staff that's retained in the agency or retained on a client team, I think is probably not a reality anymore. We need to be more flexible in the way we bring in specialists who have deep expertise, you know, deploy them in the right times in the right places, and build a model that can accommodate that. And that requires deep partnership between client teams and agency teams, working hand in hand and understanding, you know, when you need to bring people in, having a really strong onboarding process, and being able to get people to understand your culture and knowing what your values are so that you can actually hire people who are consistent with that, and using those factors to really guide who fits in and who doesn't, and not relying so much on, you know, having training in some of the more traditional ways of developing people. Not that the training is not important. We invest a lot in that, but it's not so much to help people learn necessarily about new technologies.
Okay, I really love what you say about always being in beta. Love that. I'm going to use that. Picking up on what you said about cultural experience and onboarding, that's quite interesting. It sort of feels like culture's been diluted a little bit at agencies over the years. So how are you and TBWA positioning culture to people who are joining?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are lucky to actually have a very strong sense of who we are. We are the disruption company. And so that naturally sets a high bar for what impact we want to have in the world. And that shapes the mindset and the appetite, for new and for challenges that we expect. I think we also believe in consistently setting high standards. And so, we're very conscious of what we want to accomplish, and we're very clear about what our values are. And we reinforce those values consistently in everything we do, in terms of our business strategy, our ambitions, ambitious enough, our creative work, is it good enough? We're often challenging and questioning and pushing that. And it's why, I said, we're not so interested in necessarily winning any award. It's more, can we be at the top? And that's consistently what we strive for, and that we believe actually creates a sense of our people to really feel that they need to push themselves, they need to come with more provocative ideas, and they need to partner with our clients in order to get to that place.
Great. Okay, Krista, we were talking beforehand about the urgency required for learning new skills associated with harnessing, emerging technology. Can you share how inMobi have been approaching personal development?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the biggest example of this for us recently is the whole birth of ChatGPT, or the kind of debut in November, December, and how disruptive that was to everybody. Exciting, but also a little bit fear-inducing for some content marketers. Like, what is this going to mean? How do I have to learn this? And so, to your point about hiring people that are organic to the process, are already engaged, we've had a terrific track record now of just the team saying, I'm doing it, raising their hands, volunteering literally over that Christmas vacation, and saying right after ChatGPT, like, I'm going to spend my whole Christmas vacation learning this, mastering as much as I can, and then coming back and saying, this is how we're going to do content now. This is how we're going to do email marketing now, right? It has impacted on a daily basis. On every single day, the team is now logging into ChatGPT. Now, of course, we find a lot of problems there, right? There's misinformation, there's copyright violations, there's all kinds of craziness that you read. So, of course, we say to the 23-year-old, 22-year-old, but yes, run it by the editor-in-chief and spend some time with her before you publish anything and push it out, as we're trying to be very careful about that. But it's unleashed a new creativity and excitement in the team, right? They realize how important it is for them as a 22, 23-year-old fresh college grad to have this on their resume, to have this mastery. So it's just been exciting, and it's unleashing a lot of efficiency.
Yeah, and it's developing so quickly, right? Yeah, okay. And Derek, look, what are your thoughts on, continuing to future-proof your talent in the business?
Yeah, I think a few things. So I think one is having a culture of experimentation and testing. So you're always having your feelers out. And a lot of that should come from just staying close to the customer. So when a platform like a TikTok emerges and you start hearing about it from your customer, go there immediately, start experimenting, even if it's small scale, and starting to get a sense of like who in the organization knows it, and maybe they can run with it a little bit. I think also there's a little bit of a shift with marketing organizations away from being super structured around channel and starting to shift to a more 360 approach where you can say, okay, for a certain campaign, I want a team who executes it 360, including brand and performance, and it kind of challenges people to get a little bit out of their comfort zone. You might be an SEO expert or an email expert or an activation expert, but I want you to actually think about the activation of a campaign across all channels. And we're even doing things now where we're creating, for smaller campaigns, giving that to a junior team and saying you have to run the entire process, concept, approval, the pitch, and the execution, and it gives them a chance to run a 360 campaign on a small scale, and you can start seeing a lot of creativity coming from the very junior level for things that, you know, at the top are not as maybe obvious. And sometimes you're creating new ideas, new approaches, and so I love that idea of developing talent through experience.
Absolutely love that. So you're talking really about genuine empowerment. You're giving them money to maybe waste, but, you know, so when we're I really love this. So this is a great segue. So we're thinking about trying new things, thinking about new ways of working, empowering your people. You know, to think about a term that gets thrown around a lot in the industry, thinking about agile. What does that, I mean, you sort of talked about it already, but, you know, in terms of encouraging your people, empowering your people to feel like they can, you know, make decisions. Yeah, what do you, can you build on that a little bit with what you're doing
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone works in apparel retail. It's grueling. It's all about being agile. So, I mean, yes, we have this brand that stands for a timeless legacy, but on a day-to-day basis, we have products changing every 2 weeks. Stores are being reset every 2 weeks. The entire website creative changes every 2 weeks. So we're shooting, you know, every single day I have probably 3 or 4 photo shoots happening simultaneously. So the volume of content we're creating, and that requires a lot of agility in saying, hey, we just put out this whole collection, let's say, I don't know, blue shirts, and there's something wrong, or actually we're seeing that white shorts are trending and we need to actually switch the creative out. Maybe there's a problem with a product, we have to get it reshot, or we have to address it, something's not working in the stores, you need to move things around, and that agility happens on a day-to-day basis. So I think there's a natural level of urgency that always needs to be maintained, and at the end of the day, it's just telling people, like, we're still being true to the brand, but on a day-to-day basis, we're meeting the customer where they are, and it's about customer service at the end of the day.
Okay, great. So it's giving customers what they want, but also encouraging people not to be afraid to get things wrong.
Correct.
That's really important, right? So constant experimentation. Okay, so Krista, you've already said that you've completely restructured your sales and marketing organization. So, look, to adapting to the modern landscape, anything to add on the, you know, on agility and how you guys are trying to encourage that behavior in the business?
Yeah, I think one really good example we went through recently is we realized a lot of our developers, younger developers, and even some younger marketers were not really hanging out in the traditional media that we thought, right? And it's super difficult to reach them, the younger generation. And so we looked at what we had and we said, well, we've got so-and-so who's really an expert in using Discord, which is a platform that a lot of publishers and developers and people are building the next generation of apps hang out. And so we said, well, let's have that person, that native person who loves that platform, create a community. And then what that did was bring out all the other little kind of, I shouldn't say little, the young Gen Z folks on the team, including 5 interns that we have in India who were like, yes, mine, like this, I want this, like, please, I want to own this, and really emerge. So we'd love to give them that opportunity and say, help us make meaningful things in that channel that you understand, that comes from you. And so we're trying to be agile and evolve as these things come to the fore. Now 3 of those people we're actually offering full-time jobs to, because they've proven themselves through this experience to be incredibly flexible, incredibly smart and capable and just fast.
That's brilliant. And I suppose the relationship that, you know, inMobi has with those guys now, that's something that you can't buy that, right? You've developed that by empowering them.
Exactly, and it's a very competitive market that we're trying to find these creative people. As you know, like every single year, there's a great new crop. How do you get in there early and really build something valuable? This has been an amazing vehicle.
Okay, that's brilliant. Okay, Deepthi, so continuing with the Agile theme, The more I read, the more I talk to people, there seems to be a shift towards taking a more agile approach to budgeting. So moving it away from more traditional approaches used in the past. What does the term agile budgeting actually mean to you guys at an ad agency? And what are the pros and cons?
I think there are a couple of different ways to think about agile budgeting. On the one hand, agile budgeting could mean that you move from a retainer relationship to a more project-based relationship with an agency. The pro of that is obviously the flexibility that it offers to clients and the ability to modulate investment based on how their, investments or their budgets might change. The con of that is from an agency perspective, it inhibits the agency from being able to really commit high-end resources consistently. And so that has a negative impact. The other side of agile budgeting is actually to figure out what are the tools and ways that you can construct your brand so that you have flexibility and efficiency in the way you operate. And for us, there are other ways to do that. So for example, if you actually invest in building a brand platform, that gives you tremendous agility because you can apply that platform consistently over time, move more quickly when new projects and opportunities come up, instead of actually continuously having to spend the time to build campaigns from the ground up. So that is one way to think about agility. And the other one is from a systems perspective. So when we think about design, for example, having a design system that you can quickly apply allows you to actually show up more consistently and gain more memorability for your brand and consistency in your brand experience. That offers agility. There's abilities to design in a modular way, and when you're looking at websites and things, and you still, get to retain the time efficiency. You get to retain the people kind of efficiency of doing these things, but it doesn't necessarily come at the cost of having to sacrifice high quality talent and a committed relationship in order to do that.
Okay, great. So it's not a sea change. We're not moving 360 away. A common theme on stage today, getting the balance right. Okay, Derek, do you agree? There needs to be a balance. How can you be as agile as possible from a brand perspective? Thinking about not having to typically rely on what we used to sort of refer to as contingency budgets, right?
Yes, exactly. And finance would love for us to be as agile as possible. So I'm always being pressured, to maintain that. I think part of it is if you can build a really strong trend forecasting capability, that's also a way to be agile because you're actually doing a better job of predicting the future or kind of saying, I'm going to take a bigger risk on the future because I feel so confident in where things are moving or where the customer will be. We plan a lot of our stuff 6 to 12 months in advance. So I have to think, okay, where is the consumer in summer 2024? I just saw the collection from the designers. Now it's going to go through a process of being assorted, and then we have to shoot it. So we're already thinking, what's happening in summer 2024? Where will the consumer be? Where will they be spending their time? What shows are coming out? Those kinds of things. And the stronger that muscle is, the more we can commit to some of those tent poles. And then everything else should be as flexible as possible and try to, close the timeline so that you can make decisions as late as possible without sacrificing quality. So it's just this constant game of and I agree 100% with Deepthi that more you know your brand and the strength of the brand platform, the easier it is to execute last minute and you're not having to reinvent the wheel. So
yeah, that makes sense. And it's just a learning curve, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Look, we said we could talk for days. I think we're running out of time, but before we go, okay, so we can't not talk about this. I'd like to get all of your thoughts on something that everyone is trying to incorporate into, how they're behaving, how they're engaging their customers, their consumers. Emerging technology. How are you guys adopting emerging technology, whether it's AI and ChatGPT or something else. How are you taking advantage of latest, technology? I don't know. Who wants to go first on this one?
I mean, I can start because I have a pretty quick answer, which is, I think because we've recently taken stock of what's happening in order to report out, the board is asking. There's a number of places in the business where we're using machine learning, so that's pretty obvious, especially with a business so driven by e-commerce. And there's a lot of really amazing use cases. We're still, I don't think there's any place where we're using generative AI yet, and I think we're just looking at it. But as a business that's, we're grounded in proprietary creative, generative AI is a little scary, but I think we're open to it. We just launched a three-dimensional virtual experience of the J.Crew Beach House. It's on the website right now if anyone wants to explore it. But that's kind of a first step in starting to explore kind of those emerging, more virtual, three-dimensional spaces as well. So.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, obviously, the ChatGPT story that I just kind of told you, but in addition to that, I think the bleeding edge for us right now in ad tech is about addressability, right? As you've got the demise of mobile identity, right? At Apple, it's already changed dramatically. We've had to try to turn on a dime for us to master Apple Scan, which is, you may have heard of it, of SCAD networks, it's also called. SCAN is the abbreviation. So we had to turn on a dime when Apple put it out and just become masters of it, right? And because it's our job to help you all, right? We need to know it so that you guys can know how your dollars are working. And so that's been a huge one for us, and really addressability as a whole, because of course Google is going to follow. Pretty soon the mobile ad ID in Google is going to go away as well. Again, at least they're saying so. We don't know when, right? Exactly. So being able to address your audience and really knowing who they are has become a real challenge for the industry. So that's been huge. And the flip side of it, the current conversation is around attention metrics, right? They're two sides of the same coin. So if I don't know who you are, it doesn't matter that I captured your attention, right? So that's for us another really important forefront.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, I would agree with you, Derek, about trend forecasting is really important. I think, our hope is always to have maximum impact on our clients' business. And a big part of our investment has been in really understanding where culture is headed with a practice that we call backslash. And there we identify the edges of culture, and we've actually been working to use technology to quantify the velocity of those edges so that we can identify not only what trends are important to people, but which ones they're going to spend more money on. And we're actually combining that into our innovation practice next, which helps us identify how new technologies can open up new experiences and new ways for our brands to be able to capture customers in unique and interesting ways and be able to create more white space for brands to grow. So it's the combination of these things that we're really excited about, and to be able to apply those things to our clients' business.
Really interesting. Okay, well, look, we're out of time. Guys, in the audience, I hope you've enjoyed that. Give it up for a fantastic panel. Deepthi, Derek, Krista, thanks so much. Brand Innovators, thanks for letting us talk about what we've just been talking about. Great, yeah. Enjoy your festival.